week had passed since the exam, and Scootaloo started worrying that Rainbow had forgotten about her promise. She and Orion visited the Rainbow Factory twice, but they couldn't find the rainbow-maned pony there. Meanwhile, a job opened in the rainbow departments, and Orion got it. Turned out he had a rare talent for mixing the exact amount of spectra for rainbows. One morning, Scootaloo went to check her mail and found a letter from Rainbow. It said that she, Scootaloo Equali, as one of the best graduates of the Flight Academy, was invited to visit the Rainbow Factory to learn the principal methods of producing rainbow components and even engage in that process. The last part confused the orange pony a bit, but nevertheless, she was incredibly happy and anticipating the upcoming event. Scootaloo rushed through the clear summer sky approaching the weather factory. She spotted Rainbow Dash waiting for her on a cloud. "Hi, Dash." Scootaloo glided down to the cloud. "Hey, Scoot," said the Cyan Pegasus, handing the warm coat to her friend. What do I need this for?" Scootaloo pondered. "We have somewhat special conditions up there, so you'd better pull it on or you'll freeze to death," explained the Pegasus pony, putting on a similar coat. They just off and set off towards the thundering sphere on top of the weather factory. As they got closer, Scootaloo realized how big the Rainbow Factory really was. It was immensely huge and gave off that instinctive fear of being smashed one's experiences seeing a massive object hanging above. Scootaloo spotted translucent pipes coming out from the sphere transporting pure, fresh spectra to the lower factory. "Do you know how spectra is made?" asked Rainbow Dash when she noticed Scootaloo was looking at the pipe. It was an easy question, as rainbows are explained in the first year in the academy. Even though she wasn't a brilliant student when it came to theory, she knew the basics very well. "From light," she answered almost instantly. "Right. The easiest way of getting spectra is to split a light beam and then collect individual colors with a special kind of glue. They call it coagulant. But that doesn't work on an industrial scale. Too expensive, too slow. And the spectra you get is not bright enough. That's why they're always looking for other, better ways of producing it." They reached a small pad on the side of the sphere and landed near the door leading inside the factory. "Hey, Cloud Shadow, I'm back," Rainbow sang out. The gray pony with a sullen face stuck out his head out the window. Cloud Shadow threw an angry look and frowned. "You brought her all the same. Okay, don't say you haven't been warned." "Come on, Shaddy. Stop whining. Everything is settled. The coast is clear." She smiled at the grouchy pony, looking straight into his brown eyes. "Well, I'll let you in. I was ordered to, but I advise you think again. Last time you—" "Open up already!" Rainbow Dash stomped her hoof in frustration, and the guard silently opened the door, letting out a breath of cold air. Scootaloo shivered in spite of being dressed very warmly. She thought that it was very dark inside and instinctively backed away. "Come on," said Rainbow, looking at the visibly frightened Scootaloo. "Don't be chicken. There's nothing dangerous there." Scootaloo frowned slightly and silently followed Rainbow into the building. When the door closed behind them, the orange Pegasus realized that it was not all dark here. The factory was filled with a cold white glow, in contrast to the bright, warm sunlight outside. The light came from the tubes that were mounted right into the thunderclouds, eliminating the need for a power supply. "Don't take his twaddle seriously," Rainbow said to Scootaloo. "Cloud Shadow is always grumpy, even on his birthday." She paused for a moment. "Anyways, welcome to the Rainbow Factory." Scootaloo looked around. She found herself in a very long corridor, twisting out of view into the distance. The corridor was bustling with ponies wearing the same warm coats. Every now and then they came in from various nooks and crannies. They looked very busy, much busier than their fellows at the lower factory. But whenever the two Pegasi came across a worker, the latter would stop and greet Rainbow Dash. Apparently, she was respected here. However, the moment they spotted Scootaloo, they would start acting very strangely. Some ponies would immediately turn away and hurry on. Some would stare at her intently, while others would greet her with a mysterious smile. This weird behavior began to annoy Scootaloo. "Why is it so cold in here?" she asked angrily. "We need special conditions for producing spectra. You know, it's a tricky process. Let's go ahead, I'll show you the condenser." Rainbow brought Scootaloo into a room with several large humming devices. The devices were connected by wires in a huge glass hemisphere. Scootaloo walked up closer and saw the drops of violet spectra appearing and trickling down the glass surface. "Look, these machines condense and collect spectra, and it flows to the lower factory. There's 6 such condensers in the factory, 1 for each color, and, if the air here gets even a little tiny bit warmer for less than 5 minutes, the spectra will be wasted. It'll become dull. That's why we have this eternal winter here." Rainbow smiled. "Come on, let's go ahead." They visited several labs where spectra were tested for quality. And again, Scootaloo felt strange looks of the workers. "Ah, Rainbow, you brought your acquaintance?" wondered one of the lab workers, a young Pegasus with an insolent sort of expression on his face. Rainbow looked at Scootaloo and then smiled to him. "Yes, I brought her." "So that means we're launching it today?" The Pegasus began rifling through his papers so hastily it was as if someone had given off the alarm. "New kind of spectra, you said, right? What is it made from?" He was abruptly interrupted by Rainbow's hoof shoved into his mouth. "Shut your trap, Windbag! I told you all a little early to celebrate, but if the deal pans out..." Dash faltered. She glanced at Scootaloo. The orange filly was staring at her with eyes wide open, and put on an awkward smile. I mean, anyways, get ready, okay?" Windbag nodded, and the blue Pegasus took her hoof away. "That was a bit harsh," Scootaloo said quietly when they left the lab and continued the tour along the corridor. The orange Pegasus felt a little queasy. She'd never seen Rainbow treating somebody this way before. "Sorry, I'm just very nervous. I'll apologize to him later. He's a smart guy, but sometimes he just blabs everything." "Oh, Professor Stratospheres!" exclaimed Dash as she spotted a stately green Pegasus with a pale blue mane. The Pegasus turned at the sound of his name and smiled. "Ah, our famous expert in rainbows. How are things going? How are your experiments?" he asked, and looked at Scootaloo. "Ah, this is your friend, Miss Aquile, I suppose. Nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you too, Professor." The orange pony smiled, trying to be polite. "Even though he's not looking at me strangely," she thought. "What kind of experiments is he talking about?" "I think we've made some progress. Windbag will tell you in detail," Dash said proudly. "But there were some problems with the reaction," she added somewhat hastily. "I hope everything will be fine this time." "I suppose. You want to start the experiment right now?" asked the professor. "Yes, I'd like to." "Okay," Stratospheres nodded. "A chamber is ready. Let's go." Rainbow turned to Scootaloo. "Well, Scoot, are you ready to join me in the experiment? It's gonna be real breakthrough if it succeeds." Is this what you wrote about in the letter?" "Yeah," Dash nodded. "Let's go. There's a special chamber nearby." They walked along the corridor without saying a word. There weren't any doors on the walls. The corridor was almost empty, save for a few workers they met along the way. Finally, they reached the door made of frosted glass. They walked in and got into a locker room. "Leave the warm clothes here," said Stratospheres, pulling off his coat. "It's too hot inside." Silently, Scootaloo took off her coat and hung it on the wall. The 3 Pegasi went through a second glass door, opposite to the first one, and into another corridor. The lights were dim here. It seemed like the air was filled with an unpleasant haze. Scootaloo felt as if she'd been there before, but she couldn't remember when. "Hey, what's up, Scoots?" said Rainbow, seeing the air of confusion on the little Pegasus' face. You just aren't yourself today. I thought you really wanted this tour. You've got a chance to see the very heart of the Rainbow Factory. So many ponies would love to be in your place, but I invited you, because you're special. Scootaloo smiled slightly, but she was still feeling rather uneasy. The corridor became narrow and stifling, because the air became so hot as they were approaching the gigantic furnace. Why is it so hot in here? The orange Pegasus asked quietly. For some reason, she didn't want to speak loudly. We are very close to the reactor, the professor spoke up. It is the place where the spectral is evaporated and transported to the condensers. We have several patented methods of producing spectra, but we always experiment with new ones. Right now, we are working on a completely new technology. By the way, it was suggested by Rainbow Dash. It's based on... Oh, we have arrived. They stopped in front of a doorway leading to complete darkness. Scootaloo thought she was facing an abyss, and there was nothing beyond the passage except sheer darkness. She felt an easy tightness in her chest. I'll leave you to now. Professor Stratosphere hurriedly trotted away. Scootaloo glanced at Rainbow Dash, who caught her eye and nodded in the direction of the doorway. Come with me. Wait, exclaimed Scootaloo. Tell me what's going on here. What experiments are you all talking about? And what in Equestria does it have to do with me? These words took Dash aback. She blinked and frowned in confusion. But a few moments later, the smile of revelation lit up her face. It's all because of that dream, right? Scootaloo looked down and nodded. Calm down a bit. Don't be afraid. Rainbow Maned Pony gently wrapped her wing around Scootaloo's back. There's nothing to fear. Come on in. I'll explain everything. Rainbow slowly led the young pony through the doorway. The door closed behind them as they walked in, immersing them in complete darkness. Scootaloo tried to look around, but it turned out that she couldn't even see her own hoof in front of her nose. This is the Camera Obscura. Rainbow's voice filled the room. She took away her wing, and Scootaloo settled on the floor, listening to her. It's the darkest place in the factory, a place where even the slightest light source can be detected. You know, the sun and candles aren't the only light sources. There are lots and lots of different kinds of light. I realized that when I saw the elements of harmony. When the elements worked, I felt something. It was such an incredible feeling that I can't even describe it with words. Well, maybe I can describe it with a single word. Loyalty. It was overwhelming me. I could feel it burning inside me. And then I realized what else can give off life? Our hearts. When we feel strong emotions, our hearts can make enough light to be detected here. But all my previous attempts to evoke strong feelings from ponies have failed. There is only one feeling, only one emotion I haven't tried yet. Suddenly, in the complete darkness, Scootaloo recognized Rainbow Dash's shape. Barely discernible at first, but it grew clearer and brighter, acquiring a glowing outline, a horrifying and, at the same time, immensely beautiful sight. And what is this feeling? Asked the orange Pegasus, though, in the depths of her soul, she began to understand what Rainbow was talking about. She didn't notice that her own body started to spread a warm, flickering glow too. Scootaloo looked into Rainbow's rosy eyes, and realized everything her friend couldn't say with words. The blue Pegasus moved closer and hugged her tight. Their glow grew brighter, blending and exploding into bright, sparkling rainbows, engulfing the two Pegasi. Scootaloo, Dash said quietly, you're the best thing in my life. I'm so glad I met you, my #1 fan. Scootaloo felt warmth filling her heart from these simple words. Though she had already heard them before, now they sounded completely different. You know, I didn't tell you something about my nightmare, she said. Really? What is it? Rainbow asked, giving Scootaloo a warm smile. The words I said to you before I woke up, the orange pony returned the smile. The deceitful dream had completely dispersed, leaving behind nothing but these true words. You have beautiful eyes, she cooed, soft, yet clearly. Professor Stratosphere was sitting in the control room, recovering from the shock. The amount of spectra the factory had collected in 5 minutes would last months. And it was spectra of the highest quality, brilliant, pure, and bright. He could see it without any tests. The Pegasus settled back into his chair and chuckled. "This is incredible. It's a new chapter in the history of rainbows," he muttered to himself. "You're right. Love is indeed the brightest emotion." Now, before I wrap this up, I'm going to give you my honest thoughts on this fanfic. First of all, it follows a path that, Rainbow Factory never truly happened. And it doesn't use the Rainbow Factory dream as a huge plot point, but more of a sideshow and footnote. I thought that was very clever on how it was used. And honestly, it took one of the just worst, and I don't mean it was a poorly written I don't say that Rainbow Factory was a poorly written fanfic, but it was one of the worst fanfics because of what it was. That is how I feel about it, and it turned that into something really beautiful. And I just applaud this author. Again, the link to the original story will be in the description. And I did not write this. I did not. Anyways, I am writing another fanfic called Magic of Forgiveness. There's the title card up there, black. And the original, and the link to the unedited image will also be in the description. And I give this fanfic a 9.5 out of 10, for just an overall amazing story. And it took just something that I just wish I hadn't read, and it turned into something beautiful. Until then, peace out.